Rolling.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary G. I'm here with my three great grandchildren, and we're about to read this wonderful book called Herb and the Chameleon Bird. It's written and illustrated by Daniel Ramsey, and I think you'll like it. Herb and the Chameleon Bird, written and illustrated by Daniel Ramsey. A long time ago, when there were fire-breathing dragons, lived Herb, a young boy inside of a wagon. His home was in the forest, where he lived all alone. Not too far from a castle was the place he called home. In the castle lived a king, his queen, and Prince's daughter. But Princess Treasure had the hiccups, so the king sent out an order. He said, all through the valley and all through the land, stop Princess Treasure's hiccups and I'll give you her hand. Your weight will be in gold, a horse, and a carriage. I'll make you a prince with the princess in marriage. But there's one little catch. If you try and you fail, to the lion's den you'll go as their dinner as well. 1 month from this day, I'll hold this event. Then the king signed the order and the messenger went. The word traveled fast throughout the whole land in search of one worthy of Princess Treasure's hand. Away in the forest, hunting for something to eat, was Herb, who was tired, so he sat at a seat. Herb fell fast asleep. When he awoke, to his surprise, was an egg changing colors right in front of his eyes. Herb jumped back. Herb jumped up and ran behind a tree and peeked out. And he said to himself, what is this all about? He walked a step closer to see what was the matter. Herb then jumped back 2 steps, for he heard the egg shatter. The egg broke in pieces, then popped out of its shell. A bird or a lizard with a bird feet and a tail? It had wings full of feathers and a beak on its face. Its skin was like leather and its tail like a snake's. It made a small noise like a bird when it sings. It made a small noise like a bird when it sings. Then it hissed like a lizard and started flapping its wings. All of a sudden, it turned green, just as green as the grass. Then it walked near a tree and changed again to brown brass. Herb said to himself, it's a lizard, not a bird. Then he thought to himself, without saying a word, there is no such thing. It has never been heard of a thing such as this. A chameleon bird? Herb said to the bird, the chameleon, or whatever, I'm your friend. I won't hurt you. I promise, not ever. It just stared straight at Herb. Then it twitched its small beak, and it made a hissing sound. Then it sang, tweet, tweet, tweet. Herb said, here, my friend, have some water, a treat. And they sat down together, and they started to eat. He built him a home and a tree made for sleep. He then put him to bed and said, shh, not a peep. As the days passed by, they swam, they jumped, played, and ate. They played hide and seek, and they swam in the lake. They caught 4 fat fish and hunted together. They were friends to the end. Leave each other, they'd never. Put your hats on behind you, just like each other. We're going to show that they're friends. We're going to have matching hats. Put that on the bird and put that on you. Remember? Yes, very good. Put yours on. Take your hoodie off. Yes, yes, that's all right. Put that on. And just sit down. Don't worry about your robe. There you have it. All right, let's get started again. They have their hats on. They're friends to the end. All right. One day while out walking, Herb passed by a tree and saw the king's message and the day it would be. That night, he had a dream that the princess was his wife. How they rode into the sunset to begin a new life. A happy life, I'm sorry. He woke up in the morning feeling such a funny glow. Having the chameleon bird with him to the castle they did go. When he got to the castle and arrived at the gate, there were so many people that he thought he was late. They came from all over, from this place and that. Came a dancer, a juggler, a clown in a hat, a magician, a tumbler, and one who told jokes. Let the show now begin, were the words the king spoke. Then in came the clown with a painted smile on his face. He stuck out his tongue and his ears flapped in place. He wiggled his fingers and put his thumb up his nose. He stood on one foot as he wiggled his toes. But Princess Treasure, she sat there, on her face just a frown, with her head hung down low, making hiccuping sound. The king called to the clown. Come here, my silly friend. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Guards, to the lion's den. Next came the juggler, who tossed in the air 3 pigs. 3 pigs, dressed in polka dots, all sitting in chairs. He juggled 8 coconuts, 6 snakes, and 4 hats. Then he juggled 3 dogs, 5 owls, and 2 cats. But Princess Treasure, she sat there, on her face just a frown, with her head hung down low, making hiccuping sounds. The king called to the juggler. Come here, my juggling friend. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Guards, to the lion's den. Next came the magician, who made cards disappear. He popped a rabbit, then roses, right out in thin air. He cut a woman in half, an amazing new trick. But when putting her back together, he said, oops, I forget. But Princess Treasure, she sat there, on her face, just a frown, with her head hung down low, making hiccuping sounds. The king called to the magician. Come here, my magic friend. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Guards, to the lion's den. Next came the dancer, who spun round and round. He hit a quick split and went down to the ground. But when the quick dancer had tried to get up, his legs would not move, for the dancer was stuck. But Princess Treasure, she sat there, on her face, just a frown, with her head hung down low, making hiccuping sounds. The king called to the dancer, come here, my dancing friend. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Guards, to the lion's den. Next came the joker, saying, I'm going to win. He told 10 dumb jokes about an overweight hen. The crowd threw tomatoes. Then they booed with a shout. King, call the guards, throw him out. But Princess Treasure, she sat there, on her face just a frown, with her head hung down low, making hiccuping sounds. The king called to the joker. Come here, my funny friend. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Guys, The king started to give up, and he hung his head low, saying, "There's no one else left. It's the end of the show. I've searched in the valley, I've searched in the land, and found not one worthy of Princess Treasure's hand." Then right through the crowd, moving steady and fast, says Herb, "Please, excuse me, can you let me get past?" The crowd let him through, and Herb said to the king, "I can't dance, I'm no clown, can't juggle, can't sing." The king looked at Herb without saying a word. Then Herb said, "Let me try with my chameleon bird." The king laughed and he laughed and said, "Go away, Herb. There's no such thing as a chameleon bird." Herb said to the king, "There is such a thing. It looks like a lizard and has arms that are wings. 1 second you could see it, then the next is gone. I tell you, it's true. You'll see I'm not wrong." But no one believed him. They just laughed while Herb stood, for his clothing were of rags and his shoes made of wood. Everyone giggled and they said he was nuts. Then the king said to Herb, "Hey, I'll tell you just what. If it's true what you say and you give me your word, go away and come back with your chameleon bird." Excuse me. "I'll give you a kingdom, a crown, and a throne. For if it is true, all of this you will own." Princess Treasure, she sat there, on her face just a frown, with her head hung down low, making hiccuping sounds. Herb ran out the door and came back in a flash. In his hands was a cage covered up in old rags. Everyone became quiet, and you heard not a word, as they thought to themselves, "A chameleon bird?" Herb pulled back the rags, and he opened the cage. Then out popped his lizard with beak and bird legs. It started flapping its wings. It started flapping its wings and its tail left to right. It was changing in colors back and forth, dark and bright. The king was surprised. He fell out of his chair. His shoes flew straight off and his crown in the air. He came down with a bang and he rolled on his belly. His cheeks turned bright red like strawberry jelly. The crowd grabbed their mouths and, "Oh my," as they gasped, for they knew to the lions they'd go if they laughed. Everything became quiet from bottom to top. You could hear a mouse squeak. You could hear a pin drop. The king was so angry, he started to shout. But before he could do it, Princess Treasure laughed out. She was giggling and smiling, and the king said, "Oh my, her hiccups are gone." He had tears in his eyes. When the king started laughing, the crowd all joined in. Herb uncovered his eyes, and he started to grin. The king screamed, "You've done it! The princess is cured.